Welcome to the presentation of a lecture from Gnostic Radio, a free public service from the Gnostic tradition of Samael Aun Weor. Gnosis is the root wisdom of all the world's great religions. Gnosis is a universal teaching of practical science, whose goal is absolute liberation from suffering and the complete development of the human being. This lecture is one of many available by free download or podcast. The hundreds of hours of lectures range in topic and complexity in order to address the many needs of humanity. Each Saturday, Gnostic Radio broadcasts live. The live lecture is accompanied by an online chat, allowing listeners to read additional explanations related to the lecture and providing an opportunity to ask questions of the speaker. To learn how to participate or tune into our continuous web broadcast, visit our website for more information at gnosticradio.org. Gnostic Radio is made possible by the financial support of listeners like you. For more information or to make a donation, visit our website at gnosticradio.org. Now, with heartfelt wishes for the end of suffering for all creatures, we begin the lecture. May all beings be happy.
Good morning. Today we're going to start a series of lectures on healthy spirituality. And the first lecture we're going to talk about today is caring for your temple. Your temple obviously being your body. This is a topic that has been requested from many students in relation to how to take just better care of ourselves overall. And so that's what this series will start. We'll be alternating with the other lecturers throughout the lecture series, but I will be coming in every so often and doing a series lecture on healthy spirituality. As a holistic health coach, I see a lot of people in need of this. And as a Gnostic student, I see even more people in need of this. This is the temple that we were given in this lifetime. We only get one body in this lifetime, one physical body. So we really have to learn to take care of it in the best possible way. So my goal for today's lecture is to set a foundation for the lectures to come and talk about the importance of this. And also we'll go into some topics related to organic produce and the reason we should all be cooking more for ourselves and eating better. So that'll be today's lecture. The series will cover topics such as these over the next few months. Importance of eating well, GMOs, otherwise known as genetically modified foods, or Frankenfood as I like to call it. Factory farming practices, dairy choices, how much is enough? Is it good enough for us? Exercise, how much is needed? And living a balanced life in an unbalanced world. I think basically that's the whole theme of this lecture series, is how to live really a balanced life in this world that we're living. Because as we're all observing today, we're living in a world full of marketing towards unhealthy products. We have fast food restaurants all over us. We have food that comes in boxes and that we stick in the microwave and we nuke for a minute. We're mostly all eating on the run, and we're not really feeding our bodies. Feeding good, nutritional, whole foods in our bodies. And as I use that term whole foods, a really good way to think about whole foods is to think about how many ingredients are in that food you're eating. If there is one ingredient only, that means it's a whole food. So when you have an apple, what is an apple? An apple is an apple. There's nothing else in that apple. That's a whole food. Okay? When you're eating a piece of pizza, how many ingredients are in that piece of pizza? It's definitely more than one, right? You have a lot of other products. That is not a whole food. So whenever you ask yourself, am I eating whole foods, whole nutrition? think, how many ingredients are you eating? If it's one, it's whole. If it's more than that, it's not. So that's a nice little tool to remind yourself. So I'd love to start with this quote from Master Samael from the Yellow Book. It really is a good reminder of how we should be striving to live our life. And I'm going to read his quote from the book because I think it's really important for us to keep this in mind every day of our lives. The Gnostic must be temperate. He must not slander people. He should not be gluttonous or lazy. As a rule, the Gnostic must retire to the bedroom at 10 p.m. daily in order to practice internal meditation. The Gnostic must rise at dawn in order to practice all his esoteric exercises. The Gnostic must be a clean, tidy, decent, honest, and upright person. He should always be punctual and happy, never angry with anyone, nor should he be against anyone in any way. The devotee should shower or wash himself daily, and he should dress presentably. The Gnostic who never washes himself or is in great disorder causes damage to humanity in such a way that with his bad taste may drive people away from Gnostic studies. For example, people might say, if this is what Gnostics are like, I don't want to enter into these studies. I don't want to degenerate myself, etc. So I think that, that quote, I know we're all aspiring to be Gnostics, because a true Gnostic is one beyond who we are at this point. But aspiring spiritual student, let's say even, somebody who's trying to develop themselves spiritually. You're all here because of one reason, right? You're all here because something's calling you inside. So in order to do this work, this is a great guideline to what we should be striving for. All right, so if you're looking at this list and you're going, 10 o'clock, I never get to bed at 10 o'clock. I showed this to your friend and she's like, I don't get to bed till 12 or 1 o'clock. So are you doing your practices? Not everybody could exactly follow this, but as long as you're getting your work done, striving for this is really the key. Okay? So really the question is, why should we feed our bodies well? What is the purpose of it? I love this photo because I just think it really says something. This body is from God, right? We're a part of nature. We're a part of this world that we live in, and really this body that we get in this life, this physical body, is a gift from God. This is our chance to do something with our life. It's a way of us striving towards our being. Right? This is our physical vehicle. So the reason that we need to feed our bodies well is so that we can perform our spiritual work of our being. That's really the ultimate reason. And that's the reason for this whole series of lectures. This is so we can have the most optimal physical body in order to be able to do this work, because it does take a lot of energy. And if you're putting bad fuel into your body, what do you expect to get out? If you're filling up your car with the cheapest gas possible, how long do you think that car is going to function well before it breaks down? If you're putting the best fuel into your body, it's going to take you farther. It's going to make you feel better, and that's the whole goal of this. So in order to take care of this, in order to build what we need to build spiritually, we need to first start with our physical body. Everybody talks about, well, I want to build my astral body and my mental body and this body and that body. Meanwhile, they're eating, donuts and Starbucks and bagels and hot dogs and hamburgers and, and then they're wondering, how come I don't have an astral experience? How come I'm not doing, well? How come I can't meditate? Why do I keep falling asleep? Why can't I focus? Why can't I, be in remembrance of myself daily? Well, if you're drinking 5 cups of coffee and you're eating a ton of sugar and you're putting, fast food into your body, how is that affecting your brain? How is that affecting your emotions? How is that affecting your physical body? Obviously, it's not affecting it in a positive way. It's affecting it in a very negative way. I used to be a big coffee drinker. I loved my coffee. I had every coffee machine possible, every gadget, every type. I researched coffee. I loved coffee. Right? And then so every morning I'd start my day. I loved that smell in the morning. You put your coffee on and you wake up and that smell. And my lovely husband would bring me that cup of coffee to bed and I'd be like, oh, this is so fabulous. And then after that I wanted to meditate. Guess what happened? I couldn't sit still. I would sit there and be like, okay, I'm going to meditate. All right. Okay, no, I'm fidgeting. You know, the caffeine in my system was already altering me. So a basic thing like sitting still was impossible. So that's just a really easy example. I'm not saying coffee is bad for you. I'm not saying that, because some people, coffee's good. They've done studies now. They say for some people, coffee's good. For other people, like me, who have a lot of energy, I do not need coffee. I really don't need another stimulant in my body. You have to find out for yourself what that is, what medium is, you know, what's the amount that's good for you. So one thing I want to stress throughout this whole series of lectures is that each of us is its own biodynamic person. What's going to work for me may not necessarily work for you, because you are your own laboratory. Okay, so just keep that in mind as we're going through this lecture series. I'm going to give you some tips that are good for everybody, but you're going to have to figure out the exact formula for yourself. You're going to have to figure out by trial and error, just like I did, what works for you. Okay, so really, just keep in mind that, you know, this is a gift from God, and you're all here because He wants you to be here, and He wants you to work on yourself. So in order to do what we call the 3 factors of the revolution of consciousness, we need to have a physical body that can handle doing this work. So when I talk about the 3 factors, you can find we've done this in lectures, we have this in transcripts. If you go to our website, gnosticteachings.org and gnosticradio.org, you'll find great lectures on this topic. So I urge you, if you're not familiar with this topic, to go and study it, because this is the basis of the work that you will have to do on yourself if you want to reach spiritual enlightenment. The first one is the birth of our internal bodies. So as I was talking about building your astral body, your mental body, your causal body, all of that, those are the birth of our internal bodies. And in order to do that, you need to have a body that can transform all these energies in a positive way in order to have energy enough to give birth to those bodies. Death of our egos, all those defects that we have inside, we need to clean our temple out. Again, you'll find multiple lectures on the death of the ego on our websites. And sacrifice for humanity. Obviously, to do this work takes a lot of energy. Just for me to stand up here to give this lecture, this takes energy. And I made sure that I was ready to give this lecture by preparing myself, by eating well, by sleeping well. This morning, I had a beautiful breakfast. Last night, I slept really well. You know, I exercise. I make sure that I'm prepared. And that's really what it is, working with the energy in your body. So we've all heard this, right? You are what you eat. Now, that could be a scary concept for you if you think about what you're eating. All right? Some of you may not have the best eating habits, and that's okay. We all start somewhere. Some of you may eat very well, and maybe this is just redundant for you. But I hope, you know, for those of you who don't know how to eat properly, I hope that you start reflecting on why you should be eating better. So, you know, the food that we eat becomes our blood, becomes our cells, becomes our muscle, our skin, our bones, our hair, becomes all of us. So think about that. You know, as we put food in our body, it's getting broken down into the smallest molecules, and it's going throughout our whole body, creating our actual physical bodies. So now, if you're putting in chemicalized foods, because foods these days have so many chemicals already on it. You know, our fruits, our vegetables, our meat, our chicken, all of this is getting pumped with herbicides, pesticides, antibiotics, growth hormones. All of our food is being pumped because it's become an industry. It's become a business. Food has become a business. You know, 100, 200 years ago, food was grown because we needed to eat it. We needed to feed ourselves and our families. Now food is just another business, like any other industry out there. So what does industry want? Industry wants to make money. So in order to make money, what do? They do the cheapest, the dirtiest, the sneakiest possible things they can. And I'm not talking about all companies. I'm talking about the majority of companies, because there are good companies out there who really uphold their standards. But a lot of companies nowadays with factory farming, with the way that they grow their crops, are just growing it for a profit. And they really don't care what happens to us. Because, if you get sick, so what? You get sick, you go to the doctors, and they'll give you some pills. And you'll get some medication, and then we'll be even more drugged up. So that's what's happening. It's a vicious cycle that's going on, and I'm not going to get into the whole health industry right now, but you know what's going on with that. Most people are on an average of 2 to 5 drugs. If you're not on a drug right now, count yourself very blessed, because most people are on something. They're either taking something to lower their blood pressure, their cholesterol, they're taking something for certain pains, for aches. So everybody nowadays, it seems like, is on at least 1, 2, 3, 4 drugs. Okay? And I'm not saying get off your drugs. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is there are alternatives to most drugs. Some drugs you have to take in order to stay alive. That's true. But a lot of the drugs they're giving these days, if you go to the doctors, they'll just give you, oh, wait, you have a pain in your foot? Oh, here, take some codeine. You have a stomach ache? Oh, take this antibiotic. It's probably this. They are with you. The average doctor's with you, maybe 2-3 minutes he talks to you, and then he prescribes some kind of drug without even knowing what's really going on with you. Last time I got really sick, went to the doctors. Doctor told me, well, you need to be on this drug, on steroids, on antibiotics, on this drug, on that drug. I looked at him, and I was just like, I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not taking these drugs. Because as I was reading the side effects were worse than my illness. The side effects were possible death. That was one of the side effects. Okay, when possible death is a side effect, I'm going to think twice about taking that drug. And I didn't take those drugs, and instead I took a holistic approach, and I cured myself through food, through essential oils, and through just taking care of myself. And I cured myself. The doctor thought it was impossible. He thought, oh, you're going to be sick for 6 months if you don't do this, and I cured myself. Does it take work? Yes, it takes work. But is it possible to do? It is totally possible. But we have to get ourselves out of the vicious cycle that has been set up for us right now. And that cycle is mass-produced food, illness, hospitals. That's sort of the cycle that it's going right now. And really, it's to the benefit of the health industry that you are sick. So, if we keep eating the junk food, the bad foods for us, it's going to catch up to us. And you're going to just become another part of that cycle. I was reflecting when I was preparing for this lecture, and I said to myself, because before I ate just like everybody else ate. I ate the standard American diet, or otherwise known as SAD. Isn't that funny that the standard American diet is known as SAD diet? And I ate the standard American diet. I grew up eating it. My mother did provide me with vegetables every meal, but basically, you ate. You occasionally went to McDonald's, and you occasionally had pizza, and so maybe I ate a little better than the standard American diet, but the point is, I ate like everybody else ate. And then I started feeling bad, like the symptoms started to occur in my body, right? And so, you go and you realize there has to be something better. And so once I started studying Gnosis, I realized there were certain things I should be doing and certain things I shouldn't be doing, but there wasn't a lot on really nutrition. So I went to school to study it because I knew for me I needed to make a change, because I did not want to be like all the people I saw around me who were sick and on drugs and in pain. I wanted something better. And I knew for me to work spiritually, I needed to change my life. And my husband used to say to me, why don't you eat fruit? You never eat fruit. And it was true. I hardly ever ate fruit. I would eat fruit, once in a while. I always ate vegetables. I liked vegetables, but I wouldn't eat fruit. And then I wondered why I had health issues. I wondered why I didn't go to the bathroom regularly. Or I wondered why I didn't always feel so good. Or how come I always felt thirsty and dehydrated. And so when I made that shift, I just started incorporating better food into my body. I realized something was changing in me spiritually even. I felt like I was waking up. We're all asleep. Most of us live most of our life asleep. And the food that we eat, the way the system's set up is they want us to sleep. Because if we're asleep, then we're not a threat, right? Those who are in charge want people who are going to be sheep, who are going to do what they want us to do. So it's very convenient for us to put bad food into our bodies and drugs into our systems because that keeps us asleep. But the minute that we start putting better fuel into our bodies, the minute we stop being a part of that wheel, we start to awaken. And that's the beauty of what Gnosis teaches us. It's awakening. It's being alert and aware of what we're doing. And what goes in our mouth is a huge factor related to this, right? Because that's going to affect how we feel the whole day long. So if you are what you eat, think about that the next time you want to put certain foods in your mouth, and think about that. Do I want this to be a part of my body? So, I'm not perfect. Trust me, when it comes to eating, I follow the 90-10 rule. 90% of the time I'm great, and 10% I splurge. The 10% is when I try and eat what I enjoy to eat, little things that I don't normally eat, but 90% of the time I follow eating well. Because I'm thinking about what I eat is going to become me. And what becomes me is going to affect my work spiritually as well. So just keep that in mind the next time you want to eat. So I ask you, so what are you? Is this what you look like? Do you have McDonald's and Pizza Hut and Burger King and Subway in your thigh and In-N-Out in your other thigh and Starbucks in your mind? Trust me, I was a Starbucks raider. I could find, my friends would laugh at me. We're driving down the highway in the middle of nowhere, and I'm like, ooh, I feel a Starbucks coming by. Like, I knew it. I think they put chips into the coffee or in your brain or something. But I really knew because it was in my mind, and it became me. So really ask yourself, if you are what you eat, what are you? Another quote that I really enjoy from the Master is this, it's indispensable that each person be nourished sufficiently. When nutrition is imperfect, the blood weakens and becomes poor. This being the reason why the cells also weaken. So think about that. When our nutrition is not sufficient, when we're not eating optimally, it's going to affect our cells, it's going to affect our body, it's going to affect our work. Because obviously if you're weak, how are you going to do all this work that you're supposed to do? How are you going to get up in the morning and meditate, do your practices, go to work, come back home, have time with your family, do your practices? How are you going to have that energy to do that when you're feeling sluggish and tired and, I just can't do it, I'm just too tired? How many of us are trying to do the work and we don't have the energy to do it? If that's your case, then you really need to take a look at what you're eating, because what you're eating is going to affect ultimately the work that you're doing. So I just want to start out with 10 tips for eating for a healthy spiritual body. I want it to be practical, and I'm not going to tell you go out and change the way you completely eat. I'm not going to ask you to do that because we all know it's impossible. It took me years to learn how to eat better. It's going to probably take you little changes as well. The best changes are the ones that happen little by little. Anybody here ever been on one of those fad diets where it's like only eat bananas and cottage cheese, for a week, or only eat grapefruits? And it's drastic and it doesn't work because you cut out everything, and then as soon as you start eating again the normal foods, you just gain the weight back again. So I'm not asking for that. What I'm asking for is just to try and incorporate some better foods into your system too. So the number one easiest way to get more energy and better food in your body is to eat more produce. Fruit and vegetables. Simple, right? We all know fruits and vegetables are great for us, right? Everybody's heard it. You should be eating 5 to 6 servings of fruit and vegetables. They're good for you. Fruits and vegetables are full of vitamins and minerals and phytochemicals. That's what fights against illnesses in our body. They're filled with things that are good for you. They have fiber. Okay? They're high in fiber. They're filling. So the more fruits and vegetables you put in your body, the better you're going to feel faster. It's a really easy fix. Sometimes you have like low energy and you're like, oh, I need a candy bar. Right? You think the candy bar or the donut or the piece, something's going to make you feel better, so you go for that. Really, that's your body's way of asking for energy. But we've been programmed to reach for the quick fix. We've been programmed to reach for the stuff that is going to make us feel good real fast, but then it makes us crash. So that candy bar makes you feel good for about half an hour, right? And then after that, your blood sugar level just dives and you feel bad again and you're low on energy again. But what's beautiful about fruit is fruit has a lot of fiber in it. And so when you add fiber to it, what it does is in your blood glucose level, it's going to give you a steady stream of energy because of that fiber. Candy bars do this, up, down, like a mountain. The fruit is going to give you a steady stream of energy because of that fiber. So it goes through your bloodstream slowly, not as quickly as a candy bar would. So the quickest way to get really good food into your body is just by incorporating more produce into your body. So now people start going into the question of, well, which produce should I buy? Commercial produce is okay. If you don't eat any vegetables or fruits, commercial produce is fine. If you can just get in an apple into your body, it's great. If you could get some, lettuce, and that's fabulous. If all you can afford is commercial produce, great. Just get it into your system. It's okay, commercial produce. But frozen fruits and vegetables are also okay. Like in the wintertime, we don't have as much access to fresh fruits and vegetables, so frozen is a good option. Actually, the techniques of freezing fruits and vegetables right now has changed with flash freezing. So actually, the beauty of frozen fruits and vegetables is when they're picked, they're frozen within hours of picking. And they're picked at when they're ripe, at the peak level of their ripeness, and then they get flash frozen. So actually, they retain a lot of the vitamins and minerals and enzymes in themselves. So actually, a lot of people think, well, frozen's not good. It actually is a good alternative in the wintertime. In the summertime, you don't need it, right? In the summertime, we have an abundance of fruit and vegetables. Take advantage of that. This is the season to be eating everything fresh. Okay, so frozen is fine. I always keep frozen fruits and vegetables in my refrigerator just in case I run out of something too. I have it as a backup. But it's a good alternative to fresh. The U.S., so we went to conventional. Conventional is okay. Frozen's okay. Organic is much better alternative. So in the United States, I know there are people listening from all over the world. What I'm talking about right now is the USDA. The United States Department of Agriculture, and their standard of organic. Standards of organics are different around the world. For example, in Europe, their standard for organic is higher than that of the United States. They have really strict rules regarding organic products and what is labeled organic. But there are other countries that their standard is much lower. So what I'm going to be referring to today is the definition of what organic is according to the United States standard. And so I just want to read for you what exactly organic means. Specific requirements must be met in order to get labeled organic. Organic crops must be grown in safe soil, have no modifications, and must remain separate from conventional products. Farmers are not allowed to use synthetic pesticides, bioengineered genes, or GMOs, which will actually be another lecture, petroleum-based fertilizers, and sewage sludge-based fertilizers. Yes, you heard me right. Sewage sludge-based fertilizers. A lot of the conventional farmers use sewage sludge as fertilizer. You all know what sewage sludge is? That's what's coming out of the system, the toilet system, sewage sludge. They use that to fertilize products. Okay, so yeah, I know. It's not a nice thought to have, but that's what's happening in conventional farming. Okay, because it's cheap, obviously, sewage sludge. Organic livestock have access to the outdoors and are given organic feed in order to be considered organic. They may not be given antibiotics, growth hormones, or any animal byproducts. In a conventional farm, animals are fed lots of antibiotics because they're getting sick because of the feed that they're given. They're also given growth hormones so they can get fatter faster. And they're also given animal byproducts. So meaning, for example, chicken manure is used in feed a lot. They use byproducts, so they'll use cut up bits of other animals to feed the livestock. And when you buy organic meat, that's forbidden to be done. So that's the actual definition of what is considered organic. I mean, this is the summarized. Obviously, there's a book on what is considered organic, and if you want the whole manual, you could probably find it online. But that's basically the reasoning for what is considered organic. So when you see this label on the foods, that means that that farm has gone through certain testing. They have to go through review, through certain standards. They get checked to make sure that they're following these guidelines in order to make sure that seal is correctly put on there. So organic foods are a better option than conventional. So the benefits of eating organic are obviously conventional products have a lot of pesticides, herbicides, lots of different chemicals put on there. So organic food is a better alternative because you're keeping some chemicals off your plate. Obviously, we are exposed to so many chemicals on an average day. You walk outside, and the chemicals that are coming out of cars, the chemicals that are in the air already, that's one way we're getting bombarded, through the air. Another way we're getting bombarded is through the foods that we eat. So we want to keep as many chemicals off our plate as possible, because we are actually acting as guinea pigs for what's going on in society right now, because we're really, the first couple generations of people that are getting all these chemicals into their bodies. So we are already seeing a rise in illnesses on all levels. There's more obesity, there's more heart disease, there's more, cancers, and many more illnesses are occurring. So a lot of people are attributing this to all the chemicals that are coming in through our air, through our food, through our water. So really, we have to make the conscious effort to try and keep those off of our plates as much as possible. Organic foods also are supposed to be more beneficial in nutrients and antioxidants than their conventionally grown counterparts. And people who have allergies to food, chemicals, or preservative actually find that they have less symptoms with organic foods. So if you're somebody who suffers from a lot of different allergies, trying to get organic foods into your system will probably alleviate a lot of those symptoms. Like I said, organic foods contain less pesticides, and they're often fresher. If you think of the conventional foods that are out there, the food that winds up on your plate, on average, has actually traveled 1,500 miles to get to you. 1,500 miles. It's coming from across the country usually. And what they do is conventional food gets picked before it's ripe. Then it gets gassed, and then it gets sprayed first, then gassed, and then they put these preservatives on it so that it could withstand the time it takes to get from the farm to the supermarket to preserve it. So the average fruits and vegetables that you're getting have been sprayed, gassed, more chemicals added to it, and they have traveled a really long distance. And if you haven't noticed, they usually don't taste very good. I remember growing up, and a strawberry tasted like a strawberry. Now it's like the luck of the draw to get a strawberry that tastes like a strawberry because they get picked too soon. It's because they're traveling too far. So usually organic food is fresher because they're not spraying as much food on it. So obviously they can't be traveling as far usually, and they're not putting on as many preservatives and gassing it as they are with conventional. So if you notice, if you buy like a conventional lettuce and an organic lettuce, the organic lettuce is going to go bad much quicker, right? Because it has less chemicals, preservatives, and all of that. So that's why when you go and you buy organic produce, make sure you're buying it what you're going to eat in the next couple days, because it does go bad quicker. But it has more nutrients, more vitamins, and the benefits of eating organic as well is it's better for the environment. Organic farming practices, they reduce pollution in the air, the water, the soil. They conserve water, reduce soil erosion, increase soil fertility, and use less energy. So organic farming is obviously better for the birds and small animals that live in that environment, because I always think if the pesticides are killing the pests, the bugs, right, what is it doing to the rest of the environment around it? What is it doing in our bodies? If pesticides, because even if you wash fruits and vegetables, a lot of time you can't get all the pesticides and chemicals off of it. So if its job is to kill living organisms, when we ingest it, what do you think it's killing inside of us? What is it doing to us? We're made up of cells, right? So when we're putting that into our body, it's killing certain parts of our cells or altering things in our body. So just keep that in mind as well when you're choosing your produce. So organic farming is just a better alternative on the whole compared to conventional. And if we look at a comparison of the two, organic produce doesn't have pesticides, they're grown with natural fertilizers, and the insects are controlled using natural methods. So they use birds, good insects, traps. Whereas conventionally grown produce, pesticides are used, they're grown with synthetic or chemical fertilizers, weeds are controlled with chemical herbicides, and insecticides are used to manage pests and disease. So that gives you a good view of what are the benefits of organic as opposed to the conventional. Okay, so these are known, this produce is known as the dirtiest produce out there. They're the dirtiest because they retain a lot of their pesticides and chemicals on there. So today you're all going to be receiving a handout that looks like this, and it's a guide. What's nice about this is you can just cut it out and stick it in your wallet, and what it's going to show you is it's going to show you which produce are the dirtiest and which are the cleanest. Which ones you can buy, you should buy organic, and which ones you could buy conventional because the level of pesticides. So the growing consensus among scientists is that small doses of pesticides and other chemicals can cause lasting damage to human health, especially during fetal development and early childhood. Scientists now know that there are long-term consequences of ingesting these powerful chemicals and advise us to minimize our consumption of pesticides. So the difference between the dirty dozen, they like to call it the dirty dozen, these vegetables and fruits, but I actually discovered there was more than a dozen, so I've got to call it something else. But these are the dirtiest, and so these you should definitely buy organic, okay? Because if you ingest the servings that they recommend, it's like 5 to 6 fruits and vegetables a day. If you ingest 5 or 6 of these vegetables in one day, you are being exposed to 10 pesticides in your body. 10 different ones. So who knows what they're doing, to you and how they're reacting to each other. So apple, bell peppers, blueberries, carrots, celery, cherries, imported grapes, kale, leafy greens, nectarines, peaches, pears, potatoes, strawberries, and spinach. These are the ones you want to be investing in, okay? Organic. Get this if you're going to eat it. It'll be better for you because you'll keep the chemicals off your plates. These are the ones that are the cleaner ones. So you could actually afford to get these conventionally because they don't have, the pesticide levels are much lower than the dirty dozen plus 3. So these are asparagus, avocado, broccoli, cabbage, sweet corn, eggplant, kiwi, mango, onion, papaya, pineapple, sweet peas, sweet potatoes, tomatoes, and watermelon. This can be found, for those of you who are listening online, on foodnews.org, and it was created by the Environmental Working Group. So you can print out a copy for yourselves of the guide and keep it in your wallets. Everyone here at the lecture will actually get one. So this is a nice little way to keep in mind what we can and can't, what we can and don't have to buy organic. Because a lot of people say, well, organic is too expensive. I can't afford organic. Well, here's a great little trick to just buy the ones that are really dirty, buy those organic, and these you can get conventionally. Okay. So again, with the cost of organic food, there's a few ways to get tips for decreasing the cost of organic food or making it more reasonable for your budget. Organically grown food is more expensive because the methods they use are better methods. They're not resorting to the cheaper farming methods. But it's better for the farmers as well. Keep that in mind because they're not working with so many pesticides, the farm workers. Actually, on conventional farms, they have found an increase in illnesses for those farm workers and the farmers who spray all these pesticides because think about it. You are spraying these chemicals all day long. you're breathing it, you have it on your skin, there's an increase in many illnesses for these patients. For these patients, yeah, they are patients now for these workers. They have become patients. So here are some tips for you besides the grocery store where you can get good organic products that will fit your budget. Farmers markets. Farmers markets are a great way to find out who's growing your food, and they're usually more reasonable. So look for some farmers markets in your area. You're also supporting your local farmers, which is a great way of helping out people in your neighborhood. Join a food co-op. Food co-ops, also known as cooperative grocery stores, they typically have lower prices for members. Usually you pay a fee for the year, and some co-ops will ask you to maybe work one day a month. Others they won't ask you. But what it does is it really is much cheaper way. If you have a co-op in your neighborhood, I highly encourage you to join it. It's a much cheaper way to get organic produce. Or join a community-supported agricultural farm, a CSA. This is fabulous. If you've never heard of a CSA, what you do is you actually buy a share of the farmer's crops. So, for example, Mr. Jones's farm, he has crops for this year, and it's going to cost you $500 to have a full share. With that full share, each week you'll pick up a box of produce, whatever's in season, whatever's getting picked up that week, whatever's getting picked that week, and you take it home. And each week you pick up your produce for that week, and it goes through the whole summer into the fall. So it's a really nice way to have a part of a farm, the share crops of the farm. And you can find out more. There's a good source. If you just look up community-supported agriculture, you'll actually be able to find some in your area. So that's a really great way of getting good food into you. Now, there's a big controversy going on between organic and local. They say, well, what's better? Is organic better, or is locally grown food better? The food that's grown close to home. Locally grown food doesn't necessarily mean it's organic. Local farmers may be organic farmers, they may not be. They may be conventional farmers. But they're saying that local's even better because of 3 reasons. It's the financial benefits, the money stays in the community, strengthens the local economy, and more money goes directly to the farmer instead of things like marketing and distribution. So local, it could be within 50 miles, 100 miles of where you live. Usually that's what's considered local. And they're saying it's better for you as well because it's being grown in the area of the world that you live in. So obviously, where you live, the different types of produce that's being created is for that environment. And it helps you to also eat in season, which is something that should be, we'll touch on that in another lecture because that's a whole topic in itself. But eating in seasons, eating what's in season actually is better for your body as well. Transportation issues, as I mentioned, it's more environmentally friendly to eat local because, like I said, it takes 1,500 miles usually to get a meal to your table. So just think of all the fossil fuels that are being used, all of the pollution that is being produced by the trucks, the trains, the shipment of this produce across the country. In wintertime here, South America is having their summertime. So in the wintertime, what do you see here? You see grapes from Chile. You see produce from South America because they're importing it all the way from there. So imagine how long it takes for those grapes to get here and the process it had to undergo to get to your table. That's why, again, eating seasonally is a better option. And it's fresher produce. The fresher, the better. No matter what, the fresher, the better. If you can get produce that's local and fresh, it's going to be better for you in the end than something that's been traveling miles and miles and miles. Because the longer it takes to get to your plate, the less vitamins, minerals, enzymes, nutrients it has. Okay, so the quicker it gets to your stomach, the more nutrients it has. All right, so if you ever have a choice between produce, the freshest is the best. If you can grow it in your backyard, that's even better. I have a peach tree, an apple tree, a cherry tree growing in the middle of the city, and I try to grow some vegetables as well. Speaking of that, I picked my first tomatoes yesterday, and they were delicious. Heirloom tomatoes. If you've never had a tomato picked right off the vine, you are missing out on something. Grow it. Grow a pot of it. You can start growing them in your apartment, in your house. It doesn't take much work, and there is nothing that compares to fresh produce. So I encourage you to start growing your own little garden, no matter where, because if I could do it in the middle of the city, trust me, you can do it anywhere as well. So the whole point of this is just get some healthy food into your body, okay? Just get it into your body. Watch what other people are buying when you go to the store. You know, I love to do this. I'll just look at, like, in the produce department, I'm, like, looking at what people are buying. So one day this guy was buying something that I had never eaten before. And I asked him, I said, you know, what is that and what do you do with it? Because I had no idea. And I really love vegetables. So I was like, you know, he says, oh, this is a fennel bulb. I said, okay, fennel bulb. So now what do you do with it? And so he told me exactly what to do with it, you know. Put some lemon, olive oil, some salt, pepper, make a little vinaigrette, chop it up, put it in there. It's a great side salad. If you've never had a fennel bulb, try it. It's delicious. And so I went home with this fennel bulb. I tried it. It is now one of my favorite vegetables. Had I not asked, I probably never would have tried a fennel bulb. So the point is just ask people. And also it gets you, you know, I don't know where you live, but where I live, people tend to be very serious, and food is a great way of getting people to be not so serious. Talking to people in the supermarket, asking them about food, it's a really nice way to learn about it and to be nice to somebody. So try new vegetables. I try to go to the store, and I do try to pick vegetables, stuff that I've never tried. I try to pick them up. And, you know, with the internet nowadays, you can get ideas on anything. So you just put in, you know, I was at a farmer's market a couple months ago, and I bought something that I had never, rhubarb. I never bought rhubarb before. I'd always see rhubarb, and I heard of rhubarb pie and rhubarb this, but I never ate rhubarb. So I asked the woman who was buying rhubarb, what do you do with it? She gave me a quick recipe, took it home. I made a delicious rhubarb cherry strawberry pie with, you know, all fresh products, and it was delicious. And I found out I love rhubarb. But, you know, like, you just have to try and experiment with yourself, because the more different types of fruits and vegetables you get into your body, the more different enzymes, the more different vitamins, because each fruit and vegetable has a different amount of vitamins. So that's why variety is so important. And actually, on the other side of the handout that I'm giving out today, you're going to find out about the color and the importance of the color of foods, because each color of the foods has different properties that take place in your body. So, for example, when you eat a variety of red fruits and vegetables, it's great for a healthy heart, for urinary tract health, and for memory function. So apples, pomegranates, strawberries, cherries, cranberries, tomatoes. So red fruits and vegetables focus on that. Blue and purple fruits and vegetables, they are great for memory, for healthy aging, and fights against heart disease. So blueberries, blackberries, plums, grapes, and eggplant. Green vegetables and fruits, they help your vision, strong bones and teeth, kale, collard greens, spinach, asparagus, mustard greens. Yellow fruits and vegetables, healthy heart, healthy immune system, vision health, lemons, bananas, yellow bell peppers, and grapefruit. Orange fruits and vegetables, vision health, healthy immune system, pumpkin, oranges, apricots, sweet potatoes, yams, and carrots. And finally, white fruits and vegetables. They lower blood pressure, high cholesterol. They're natural antibiotics, and they're immune boosters. So onions, ginger, garlic, and burdock root. You know, 100, 200 years ago, people used food to heal illnesses. We didn't have this assortment of drugs. We used food. And people knew what food did in your body. They used herbs, they used plants, they used different foods to heal themselves. And really, that's the way things should be, because we know what's in garlic. Garlic is just garlic. It's a whole food, right? But when you get a pill, you don't know what's in that pill. You just trust in the pharmacy and the doctor who gave it to you. So example of garlic, it's a natural antibiotic. If you feel you're coming down with something, crush a piece of garlic. You have to crush it, because that starts the antibiotic properties to go into effect. Crush it with the hand or the back of your knife, cut a little piece, swallow it. And do that throughout the day if you feel like you're coming down with something. It's a natural antibiotic. I can't tell you the last time I took antibiotics. I don't even remember the last time I took antibiotics because I don't take, when I start getting sick or when the doctor says, you need antibiotics, I go and I take ginger, and I have burdock root, and I have onion because I know those are natural antibiotics. Okay, so that's why it's so important to try new vegetables, have a variety in your shopping cart or in your basket. When you go to the supermarket or when you go to a farmer's market, you should see a rainbow of fruits and vegetables. If you don't see a rainbow of fruits and vegetables, you're missing something. We should eat a rainbow of colors, at least 3-4 colors. Because that way you're getting all the vitamins, enzymes, nutrients that you need for your body. Okay? Great way to get good food in your body. Have fruit as a mid-morning snack instead of that granola bar or instead of that donut or that candy bar. Fruit is a great snack. Every morning I prepare my lunch for myself, my food for my day, and I always make sure I include a couple pieces, maybe an apple and some cut watermelon or pineapple. I make sure I have that so that if I don't have that and I get hungry at work, guess what I'm going to choose? I'm going to choose something that's readily available, and usually that's not a good option because it's candy bars or it's donuts or something like that. So here are just some ideas on how to get good food in your body. Adding fruits onto your waffles, pancakes, cereal, oatmeal, toast. Adding vegetables to your eggs or egg white omelets. Having dried fruit at your desk. Just make sure they don't have sulfur added to it, the dry food. And top some yogurt off with some sliced fresh fruit. So these are just some examples. I try to make sure I have fruits and vegetables in every meal. Every meal. That way I'm sure that I'm getting the amount I need for the day. So, cooking. We need to get back into cooking. And I don't mean you have to be a great chef. If you like to cook, that's great. If you don't like to cook, easy cooking. Easy preparing of foods. Because the food that you prepare, you know what's going into it. The food that you eat out of a box or at a restaurant, you don't know what's going into that food. I was shocked the other night. I went out with some coworkers, and we went to this hibachi-style restaurant, and I love Japanese food, right? I usually go for the sashimi and that stuff, but here was that hibachi style, where they cook in front of you. And so I ordered what I thought was the healthiest option. I got some salmon and scallops. So they start cooking. So he comes out, he brings all the foods out, and he has a bowl about this big, okay, bigger than my hand, and about maybe 6 inches high. And my friend's like, what is that, some kind of dough? I was like, no, that's the butter. That's the butter, okay? He had this huge thing of butter, and she just was told by her doctor she has high cholesterol, high blood pressure, she can't be eating, these kind of foods. And so he starts cooking, and I love butter. I'm a butter fan, but I make sure I get good butter, right? I put butter on whatever I could put it on. But he starts cooking, and if I tell you the amount of butter that went into every single thing we ate. We had shrimp with butter, we had vegetables with butter, we had rice with butter, noodles with butter, salmon with butter, and scallops with butter. Now, I like butter. That was too much butter. Butter and oil. Don't forget the oil that they put in, too. So my point is, usually we don't see how they're cooking our food. I happen to be watching them cook our food. But when we eat at a typical restaurant, you don't know what they're putting in your food. They're putting so many things we have no idea. And they're putting in salt to make it taste good. Too much salt. They're putting sugar. They're putting butter. They're putting oil. And trust me, most of the restaurants are not putting the best quality products. They're putting the cheapest so that they can make more of a profit, unless you're eating at a really great restaurant every time you go out. Typical restaurant is going to serve you cheap food, trying to taste really good. So my point is, eating that way every day. I went home and I got straight onto my elliptical for half an hour because I was like, oh my goodness, I ate more butter than I ate in a month tonight, And I realized my body's not used to eating like that anymore. I don't feel good. And then the following day, we had this goodbye lunch for the same coworker. And so we ordered in, like, from one of his favorite restaurants, what happened to be this mix of Chinese, Guyanese fusion. Oh, my goodness. And so I had more of this kind of food. I really felt ill. Like, I did not feel good. And so I got home. This was last night. I get home. I'm like, I can't eat. I don't want to eat. I had like so much like greasy food and yucky food that I did not feel good physically at all. Mentally, I didn't feel good. I just felt like I did not feel balanced. So what did I do? Sent my husband to the supermarket. I said, get a watermelon, get a pineapple. He gets the watermelon and pineapple. I made a kale apple smoothie. I drank that down, had some watermelon, pineapple, cleansed my system out because that's what fruit felt. When you eat fruit, don't you feel like cleansed? And that was my dinner. You know? Oh, no, and I also picked 2 tomatoes and ate those. So that was my dinner. Tomatoes, pineapple, watermelon, kale, and an apple. Because my body wanted it. My body was going, help, what are you doing to me? Get me some whole foods. I'm not feeling good. And so that's what we need to start doing, is listening to our body. So many of us have gotten out of touch of listening to our body, and we just eat what we see on the TV commercials. Or we eat whoever prepares something for us. But we don't eat what our body's asking for. So next time you're feeling hungry, say to yourself, what does my body want? At first you're going to think in your head, oh, I want that hamburger that was on the commercial. That's the first thing that's going to come into your mind usually, because that's just programming of the mind. But if you really look at what your body wants, your body will tell you what it wants and what it needs. And this is the way that we have to start learning to listen to our body again. People used to eat that way. But now in this rush society, we grab what's most convenient. We grab whatever's there. So, as people who are trying to do something better with themselves and, get closer to your inner being, you need to start listening, and I'm sure many of you have learned this, you start listening to your inner being for guidance. But also we need to listen to our body, which is a whole part of our nature, to listen to what it needs. So start thinking about what is your body asking for? A lot of times you're going to be surprised by the answer. So getting back to preparing our own food, that's the best way. The energy that goes into the food is different when you prepare your own food. You're going to know what's going into it. If you say, but I don't like to cook, I don't have time to cook. Cook once, eat twice. Every evening I come home from work and I cook dinner. And I always make sure I cook enough so that my husband and I, for the next day's lunch, we have leftovers. So that's what I do. I cook dinner. I put my dinner right away in a container to take to work for the next day. Cook once, eat twice. It's going to give you less time in the kitchen and more time to enjoy life, to do the things that really matter to you, right? To enjoy the summertime, to do your practices. But start preparing your foods. And I don't mean you need to be like, the best chef in the world. Keep it simple. 2 to 3 ingredients. That's all you need. The maximum, not more than 4 to 5 ingredients. That's keeping it simple. It's keeping it whole. I mean, you don't have to eat this every day, but it's a good example of what you can eat. For breakfast this morning, I knew I needed to have good energy for this lecture, so I made myself 2 slices of a whole grain toast, and I put a little bit of my butter, because I love my butter, my goat butter, and then I put some arugula and a tomato from my garden. And that was my breakfast. And it made me feel good. It gave me the energy I needed to do this. Keeping it simple. Now, if you love to cook and you love to get all elaborate, with all the 15 spices and the 20 different vegetables or grains, great, do that. But really, if you don't like to cook, keep it simple. It doesn't have to be complicated. And actually, the simpler it is, the more whole it is, the better it is for your body. Okay, so just get yourself in the kitchen. And if you're not the one who cooks at home, get the person who cooks at home to get into the kitchen. Okay? There's so many cooking shows nowadays, too. You can totally find people to help you to learn to cook or watch these cooking shows for healthy alternatives. Ask others for help. If you don't know how to cook, if you're not sure how to do things, ask them. I ask my mom all the time, like, hey, how do you make that? Or I ask a friend, how do you do that? Or I turn on a cooking show and I find out. I get cookbooks. I get healthy eating foods, healthy eating books. And I try to find ways to make my meals. You know, it's creating connection, which nowadays it seems like we're lacking. Everybody's on email and on Twitter and on, electronic devices. And we're forgetting to talk to each other face to face. This morning I was looking at, I had my iPod on, and this message pops up on my iPod, and it's my sister sending a message out, and then my niece responds back to her, like on Facebook. You know what I mean? And like they live in the same house, but they're writing to each other on Facebook. So I'm just sitting there going, okay, the house is big, but it's not that big. You know what I mean? Like, why aren't we talking to each other face to face? So we're living in this electronic world nowadays, and we're losing that connection. Yes, electronic, I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but when you're talking like that, it becomes an obstacle for personal relationships. It's great for giving lectures across the world, but when you have the chance to be face to face, take advantage of that, because it's going to create a better communication too for you. Don't eat foods you don't like, okay? If you don't like a fennel bulb, don't eat the fennel bulb. If you don't like, don't eat things just because it's healthy. Don't force yourself like, oh, she said carrots were good and you hate carrots, but you're shoving them down your don't eat them. There are plenty of foods that are healthy that you can enjoy. But explore. Explore them. Try them. Healthy food, people sometimes get the idea, oh, it's healthy. It must be boring. It's not. Trust me. There are so many delicious foods that are healthy for you, that are good for you, and that are delicious. I brought down watermelon for everybody this morning, too. I hope you eat some. Amongst the bagels and the cakes. Okay? But if you don't like watermelon, don't eat it. All right. So the easiest way to get good foods in your body is by crowding out the other foods. So what crowding out means is this. If you start incorporating fruits and vegetables into your diet, all the other stuff that you've been eating are going to get crowded out. So, for example, our more mid-morning snack has been our example. If, for example, you're used to that donut every mid-morning, but instead you have that apple, guess what's getting crowded out? Is that donut. I'm not saying don't ever eat a donut again, but by incorporating whole foods, good foods into your diet, you're going to start crowding out the foods that aren't as good for you. So this is a general, very short general guideline of some foods that you should try to start crowding out of your diet. Canned foods, okay, we talked about frozen, conventional, organic, and local. If you noticed, canned foods were not on there. Canned foods are not a good source of food for you. Okay, the way that they're prepared, they're really poisonous to our system. They're not a good way, the whole process of the sealing of the foods and the metals that the metals actually leak into the foods, it's not a good option. Okay, and especially if the can gets dented and you eat it, what happens is it could break the seal of the can, and actually all that stuff leaks into your food. So all those chemicals that they use in making that can leaks into your food. So canned food is not a good option. So if you are used to eating canned foods, start trying to crowd it out by eating some frozen foods instead, some more fresh produce in its place. Fast food, obviously, we all, I think, know by now that fast food is not good for us. And why isn't it good for us? Well, first of all, who knows how long it's been sitting in the freezer? Okay, those hamburger patties that they make, first of all, if a burger costs only 99 cents, how much do you think it costs them to produce that burger for them to make a profit? Not much. And if it doesn't cost that much, they're not using very good quality product to begin with. Okay, so fast food is also made by people who are doing a job. So there's no good energy going into this food, right? Because they're just flipping burgers, sometimes dropping them on the floor and picking them up and giving them to you. And trust me, it happens. You don't know what happens in the back when the doors close. They drop a tray of burgers, they're going to pick them up again. Okay, so fast food is not a good option for us. One thing I'm going to show you at the end of this lecture is a clip from Super Size Me. If you have never seen the documentary Super Size Me, I'm going to show you the trailer at the end of this lecture, and I highly, highly encourage you to watch it. You can actually watch it free on YouTube, and it will show you what fast food does to somebody who just ate it for 30 days straight. You'll be quite impressed. Pork is another food that we want to crowd out. Pork is a devolving animal. A pig is a devolving animal. And by ingesting those elements, we increase the level of the lustful elements inside of our body. And I think society has enough lust in us as it is. We don't need to add any to it. So pork does that. By ingesting pork, it's just increasing those elements within us. So we try to steer away from pork. Besides being a dirty animal, it's not good for us to eat. Soy and corn. I'm going to get into this in a future lecture when I talk about grains and how they're produced. But unless it's organic, try to stay away from soy and grain or crowd it out. And most of the stuff that you'll see on the shelves in the supermarket have corn in it these days, in the form of corn syrup. They have all these names of how corn is used as a sweetener, and a lot of it is genetically modified. So, and again, I can't get into that today because we'll be here for 3 hours. So soda as well is full of sugar. Better alternative to soda, start drinking water. We need to hydrate our bodies, it's true. But if you look at soda, it's just sugar. And too much sugar is not good for your body. Remember that roller coaster effect I spoke about? It's going to make your sugar level spike, and it's going to drop. And you're not going to feel better. And it's one of the components to obesity. A lot of people are getting fatter and fatter and fatter on drinking lots of sodas. Okay, so crowding that out. Too much sugar, like I said. Artificial sweeteners. Artificial sweeteners are a nice way of saying chemicals. Because artificial sweeteners are just chemicals. So if you're in the habit of using equal, sweet and low, those kind of things, cut it out. Because it's just chemicals. It's pure. Read the ingredients. It's just a chemical. And more chemicals in your body, who knows what kind of effects it's having in the long term. These have proven to create illnesses in rats who have been eating them, cancer and different kinds of illnesses with artificial sweeteners. You're better off eating sugar than you are the artificial sweetener. You're better off using honey or agave nectar as opposed to sugar, but that's another lecture. And processed foods. If it comes in a box, it's processed, okay? Processed foods, the more processing that takes place, the less nutrition you're going to find in that food, okay? So the more, see, he agrees with me. The more processed it is, the less you're feeding your body. Now, it may fill the hole in your stomach, but it's not feeding your body. Do you understand the difference of filling the hole and feeding your body? When you really feed your body feels it. Have you ever had a meal, and after that meal you're like, wow, I really feel the energy of that food inside of me. Like it feels alive. Like you feel vibrant. There are some meals that I cook, and I look over at the other side to my husband, and I go, do you feel that? Is that just delicious, or is it me? Because I'm just like, is it just super delicious? And it's not, I'm saying delicious just on the tongue, but delicious for my whole body. Because my stomach's happy, my mind is happy, my heart is happy. I feel the energy of that food. It fed me. And that's what I'm talking about. If you try that with a burger, you're like, that tastes really good, right? You have a Big Mac, and you're like, that's delicious. But when it hits your stomach, it's like a brick. And like a little while later, you feel tired and sluggish, and it doesn't feed you. So that's the difference of filling the hole in your stomach and feeding your body. So I like to always say the secret ingredient in preparing food is love. Okay? Whenever I pass off some recipes to friends, and they say, and then they make it, and they say, but it didn't come out like yours. I said, but did you put the secret ingredient? I said, what's that? I said, love. And I don't mean, mushy love. I mean conscious love. I mean being in connection with your being in the moments that you're cooking, being there, present, preparing the food. I don't know how many of you like to cook, but it's one of my things I love. I think probably the thing I love to do most. So that's why I'm very passionate about this whole topic. And, it's my way of relaxing. When I come home from a long day at work, I come home, I just get straight into the kitchen, and I start cooking. And what it does for me, and I have nothing else on. I don't want music. I don't want TV. I just really focus on the food. And if anybody here has had an artistic experience in some way, for example, painting or drawing or music, I really feel that food is the same thing. Do you ever come up with something and then you're like surprised by it? You're like, wow, I didn't know that was in me. That's what cooking for me is like. I cook and I really put myself into the food I cook. I'm not angry when I cook. I'm not hurried when I cook. I really try to use that time as like a moving meditation. And I really try to just cook. And sometimes things come out that I'm just like, wow, I didn't know I could do that. I don't even know where that came from. And then when I eat it, I feel all that energy. And I'm happy with that. And it feeds me. And I have the energy necessary to do my spiritual work. So when you cook, be conscious. Don't do it if you're angry, if you're doing it out of resentment. Oh, I gotta cook. I'm the only one who cooks in this house. If you're doing it like that, it's better that you do not cook at all, because you're feeding your family poison. They feel that food. It's an energy thing. It's an energy that you put into your food. Now, I'm not saying you have to be crazy and love cooking, but I'm just saying if you're going to prepare something, prepare it in a good state of mind. Thank your being for the food that's in front of you. Whenever I sit down and I see that food in front of me, I feel so grateful. How many people don't have what I have in front of me? And I just say thank you. And I enjoy it, and I eat it with joy in my heart. One time I was cooking, and he's going to kill me because I've used him so many times as an example. But my poor husband, he's, our kitchen is small, right? Our kitchen is small, and I like my space, and I'm cooking. And then he's trying to be helpful, right? And that was beautiful. But he's trying to, wash dishes, and there I am trying to wash vegetables. And I'm like, can you please, just let me cook, right? Because it's my time to cook and create. And so he was just like, well, I'm just trying to help you. I'm like, and I'm like, I know that, but really I just want to cook, I just want space because it's so tiny in here as it is. And then he sort of got upset, and then I sort of got upset, and the next thing you know, I'm feeling angry. And I remember I was preparing meat that day, lamb, right? And usually my lamb comes out so tender and delicious, right? Really nice. Well, can I tell you, that was the hardest piece of lamb we have ever eaten. I put it on the table after being all huffy and puffy and angry, and I put it on, and we're both eating it like, ooh, this is not good. And the reason it wasn't good was because I did it with anger in my heart. I did it with resentment. I didn't do it with that good energy that I usually do it with. And I'm telling you, it made all of the difference. If you don't believe me, experiment, try it. Because really, it's all the energy that you're creating in your body at that time is entering that food. So love is the secret ingredient. And, I love this photo. And I think this is a beautiful example of somebody really enjoying preparing their food. And, when we're cooking, there's energy coming forth from our hands, from our fingertips, entering the food, this energy and this light. And so whatever the person's preparing is going to become a part of the people that she's going to feed or he's going to feed. So really, to be conscious of how we're preparing our food is a really important part of cooking. So if you don't love to cook, at least do it for the sake of, preparing it for yourself and knowing that this is going to do good for your body. So the whole point of all of this is just, what I want you to take away from today's lecture, and I hope that you take away, is just get some good food into your body. And the reason I started with fruits and vegetables is because it's summer here. There's a lot of them around, Just start putting a few into your body every day. The more that you get in there, the more you're going to create a defense system against illnesses by putting more vitamins into your body, by putting more nutrients into your system. And, the effect that it's going to have on your mood even is going to be a big difference. Because I don't know about you, but when you eat fruits and vegetables, it makes you, being a sattvic food, it gives you a nice energy. It's a very relaxing energy. So I encourage you to just try and get in as many as you can in a day, and it's going to make you feel a lot better. In future lectures, we'll talk about different food groups. Today's was about produce. And some resources that would be beneficial for you if you're new to Gnosis, if you're listening to this for the first time. A few lectures, like I mentioned in the beginning, that are a great component to today's lecture would be the 3 factors of the revolution of the consciousness, which you can find on gnosticteachings.org or on gnosticradio.org, as well as the Pankatattva ritual, which will go more deeply into food and the elements. A few movies that I highly recommend, and those of you who are here will get to see the trailers of them, but those of you who are listening online, Food Inc. is one of them. Fresh and Super Size Me. Food Inc. and Fresh are going to open your eyes to what's going on in the food industry right now. And it's going to show you some alternatives on a deeper level than what we covered today. And Super Size Me is one man's journey, eating fast food for 30 days and what it did to him. So it's a very interesting, all 3 are very interesting movies. So I'll take some questions, and then afterwards the group here will watch the movies, the clips. Okay? So any questions?
So that experiment they did with the rats and that cardboard?
Yeah, that's a great experiment. Okay, but that's like on our grains topic. So it is a great. There's this one experiment that I was going to go into when we do grains, but since you mentioned it, I'll say it now. There was this experiment to see what was with cereal grains. When you eat like a typical cereal, like cornflakes or those kind of grains. Those are called extruded grains, because what they do is they put all the grains into this machine and they pop them out, like after breaking it down and cutting it down, and they mix it with water, and it becomes this big sludge. And then they put it through the system, and they make the pretty little shapes. Okay, but these are called extruded grains. And when you extrude grains, you break down the nutritional value of the grain. So those breakfast cereals that you eat every morning, they have been stripped of so many of their vitamins and minerals. That's why they add a lot of vitamins and minerals, the artificial ones, to the food, because it's already been stripped down so much. So what they did was they did this experiments with rats, and they had rats who ate cornflakes and water. They could have all the cornflakes and water they wanted. Rats that ate just water. Rats that ate rat feed, so their regular rat feed, and rats that ate cardboard, the cardboard box from the cornflakes box. Okay, they actually fed them the box of the cornflakes and water. Okay, so you had one group eating cornflakes, the other group eating rat feed, and the other group eating cardboard box. So they did this experiment, and who do you think died out first? The ones that lived the longest were the ones on rat feed, okay, because that's their typical feed. They lasted the longest. The second group that lasted the longest was the ones that ate the cardboard box and water. They lasted longer than the ones that were fed cornflakes and water, because the cornflakes had such little nutritional value. The cardboard had more nutritional value for the rats than the cornflakes did. So that was a really interesting experiment, and that's going to take us into our grains lecture. So make sure you're here for that one, and we're going to talk about what they're doing to our grains. Yes. Okay. Well, we're going to get into a lecture on genetically modified organisms. They are on the market. Hawaiian papaya is genetically modified. So if you get the Hawaiian papaya, those are all grown genetically modified, unless it's organic. And green squash, the ones that you buy conventional, are also genetically modified. Some tomatoes are genetically modified. Those are the three that are sort of getting out there. And what's sad about genetically modified foods, it's infusing genes from one substance into another organism, right? So you can put, for example, they were putting pig genes into tomatoes, okay? Or they were trying to get spider genes into goats to try to make bulletproof vests out of the milk that was produced. This was what they're doing. So this is a big other topic that we're going to get into. But yeah, there are fruits and vegetables on the market already. So Hawaiian papaya, green squash, some tomatoes, but they don't have to be labeled in the United States. So that's a tricky thing. And when we get up to our lecture, I'll show you, I have a whole guide on genetically modified foods and what you should watch out for. Yes?
What about the seedless foods, like seeds, watermelon?
Yeah, seedless, that's going to be also as a part of our genetically modified food source. Those are hybrids. Okay, so they've also been altered. So we'll get into that as well on a whole other topic. Yep.
With the vegetables, are there certain vegetables that are much better for you than others? Like is an avocado way better than an apple?
It depends on what you're trying to feed. Because an avocado and an apple are going to have two different effects on your body, right? So if you are feeling constipated, the apple's the way to go, all right? But if you want to have, if you're looking to have a healthy skin, a healthy heart, avocado's a great option. It's great to have both. You know what I mean? Have an avocado apple salad. The more the merrier. But it is true. The greener, anything like when you're thinking about greens are the powerhouse of food, of vegetables. So the darker you go, the better it is. So if you have a choice between iceberg lettuce and, green leaf lettuce, Boston lettuce, any of those, go for the greener. Anything green, it's packed with so many more vitamins, so always go greener.
So are the dark green vegetables the most powerful?
In relation to leafy greens, yes. They're packed with vitamins and minerals that are great for you. They're also, think about this, the leafy vegetables are the lungs of the planet, right? Because they're bringing in, they're the ones that are breathing for us, right? So they're going to help your lungs a lot. So if you have lung issues, eat a lot of leafy greens, and yeah. So all vegetables are great for you. Yes? Well, I definitely think what you want in meditation is to be relaxed, right? So good foods would be foods that make you feel relaxed. So, for example, fruits and vegetables are great. They're sattvic foods, meaning that they have a great energy. They make you feel relaxed. And, so that's a great choice, actually, before meditating. Having just like, if you don't want to eat a heavy meal, obviously, before you meditate, or you're going to be snoring very fast. You don't want to have caffeine, obviously. So, you drink some water, you drink foods that are not going to have too much of an effect on you, something that's going to relax you. So, for example, bananas are very relaxing, too. So if you want to eat like a banana, that'll make you feel more relaxed. Foods that are going to make you feel just calmer, and you know what that is for you, too. Fruits and vegetables are great, but also you have to experiment with yourself and see what feels good. Light foods. Don't eat heavy foods, I would eat something light before eating, and something that's going to make me feel relaxed, whatever that is for you. Soup, for me, relaxes me. I can eat a great bowl of soup, and I'll just be like, oh, I feel so relaxed, and go meditate, So for me, soup works great. I don't know if you're a soup person. So you got to find out what works for you. But just find out relaxing foods. Yep, in the back.
Students asking, this person eats peanut butter cups, and it's increasing. He noticed that it increases the lustful elements in him, but contains no pork or pork-derived additive. What could cause it?
Well, they say that chocolate is an aphrodisiac. Oh, the question is, I'm sorry, the question is, the student is eating a lot of chocolate-covered peanut butter cups, and it's increasing his level of lust. There's no pork in it, but he's feeling more lustful. Well, chocolate is considered an aphrodisiac, so perhaps what's happening is that when he's eating that chocolate, he's, getting more amorous feeling and creating that lust, the increase of lust in him. So it's probably the chocolate. So stay away from them if you're feeling too lustful.
The second question is whey protein powder okay, or should they stick only to natural sources like meats?
I think it depends on the whey protein powder, like which one they're choosing. Is it a good source? Is it organic? Is it a whey protein? I'm sorry, the question, whey protein as opposed to natural protein. I always think the best thing is the natural protein. I personally, like I said, a whole food. What is it? Right? If you're having a piece of beef, what is it? It's beef. There's nothing else, right? So if you're having whey protein, there are a lot of other things in there. Personally, if it's a choice for me, I would go for the natural protein as opposed to the whey protein. One more? Do you have another one? Okay. Yep.
You talked about the antibiotic properties of garlic.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I used to eat raw garlic, like you say you did, but I stopped because I was concerned about the risks of botulism. Is that a valid risk? And if so, does the cooked garlic have the same antibiotic properties that these? Do you happen to know?
Yeah, question is about garlic. And you were asking about botulism. That botulism scare is only related to the garlic that you find jarred and cut already.
So if I have a clove, I'm fine.
Your cloves are fine. It's the ones that you buy, you know how they sell garlic already minced in a jar? That's the one that can cause illness. Botulism they've associated it with. You're better off just having a head of garlic, and use the garlic clove at a time. That's what I do, fresh garlic. Mm-hmm.
You mentioned that canned food is not good. What about preserves or jarred food in glass?
Preserved or jarred food in glass are okay. They don't have that same, because it's in a glass, it's better for you than it is in that metal. So if you're going to have like a choice between canned or jarred, go for the jarred. It doesn't have the same, it doesn't penetrate the food in that same sense because the glass doesn't leak into the food. So glass, for example, I like to eat tuna fish, but I won't buy canned tuna fish, so I buy jarred tuna fish, for when I'm in the mood for tuna fish. So jars are okay.
You have organic, lead-free products in cans.
Yeah, organic lead-free products in cans. I mean, I think it sounds all healthy and stuff, but the same thing's going to happen if it breaks the seal. It's still going to leak into there. And other stuff's going to leak. Whatever they're making those cans out of, obviously that's not a natural element. That's not what should be in that food. So the best bet with canned food is just stay away from canned food. Yes?
They have the nutritional values on the boxes of things, like the syrup, for example. It says 100% things, such and such. Can those be trusted if you're feeding it to rats and they're dying from this?
Well, there's something in America called marketing, right? And what happens is, with all the marketing that's going on, food industry shouldn't be trusted, honestly, because what they're doing is trying to make a profit. So, yes, it says it on the side of the box, but the effect that it's actually having on your body is going to be probably different, So I wouldn't just solely trust that. It's good to start reading the labels, but obviously they're going to make it sound really healthy because they want to sell it. So, yeah, but we'll get up to cereals and all that, like I said, in a future lecture. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Is there a difference with the organic produce that you buy from a specifically organic marketed supermarket versus if you're buying the organic stuff at a bodega?
Now, the question is there a difference between the bodega organic and the supermarket organic? They're probably both buying from the same big company. Organics has become such a big industry now that you think you have in your mind, you have this idea of like a little farm and the farmer and his wife growing food. But actually, organics is the biggest, the fastest growing industry in the food industry right now. So big companies are buying out little organic companies, and they're becoming bigger mass companies, but they're practicing in a different way than the conventional farms are practicing. They're different than the factory farms. So they're both probably buying from the same big company. So if there aren't any other questions, I encourage our listeners who are listening online to watch Food Inc., Fresh, and Supersize Me, and just start putting some good food into your diet. Just start crowding out. The more we get into our body, the better it's going to be overall for our health, the better it's going to be for our spiritual practice, and the better it will be for all humanity if we all help and become spiritually enlightened beings. So I thank you for your time today, and till our next lecture.
The presentation of this lecture was made possible by donations from listeners like you. Help Gnostic Radio to help others. Make a donation by visiting gnosticradio.org. For questions and deeper understanding of this lecture, we invite you to explore the wide variety of resources available on our websites. Thank you for your support. May all beings be happy.